Well, it's day 3 on our pizza cutter. That pizza is getting colder by the minute, but I've gone ahead and done a second tempering cycle at 500 degrees. There's just no reason for it to be too hard, so I wanted to temper it back just a little bit further. And I have to let that electronic oven cool down for several hours before it's cool enough to go to a 500 degree heat. After going to 1525, it stays hot for a long time. So it's the next morning, actually it's about noon, and we are now ready to do the final grind. This thing still looks really good and straight to my eye. Now I guarantee if I put a straight edge on this, I'm going to find some wrinkles, I'm going to find some little bit of warp. And to fix that, I'm not going to put a straight edge on it. It's a pizza cutter. We're going to grind this in a way that doesn't really require a perfectly flat bevel. I'm not going to use a flat platen. I'm going to do it on the side of the wheel, kind of like I did before. So let's go take a look at that part of the process. I'm just going to work this vertically on the belt and try to only work this part of the bevel. I want to leave this part black. I think it'll look better in the long run. I just want to clean up the part that will actually be the cutting surface. And this is a relatively soft wheel as grinding wheels go, so it'll leave a real nice smooth finish, even if this is not perfectly true. Now for you knife makers out there, you've probably got way better ideas on how to grind this than I do. Remember, I'm not really a knife maker, so I'm kind of winging it. And not enjoying grinding knives is one of the reasons I'm not a knife maker. But anyways, this has been taken down to a 400 grit finish, finished up on a Scotch-Brite belt for kind of a matte finish. If you want to take it down to 1,000 grit or more and put a mirror polish on it, hey, it's your project, you do whatever you want to do. But I like this as a little bit more rustic, perhaps a little bit more primitive project. But it needs a handle. And I've thought about 2 handles that go this way, and you work it like this when you cut the pizza. Hadn't been sharpened yet. But I'm thinking of a long handle that goes horizontal across the whole thing and work it like this. Either way would be fine, and I'm just not sure which I would like better. But I think I'm going to start like this, and if I don't like it, I might change it. And for a piece of wood, I think I'm going to go with something a little bit more natural, perhaps a little bit more rustic. And for that, I've got an old weedy apple tree that isn't very close to the house, so we almost never prune it, and it needs pruning. So I'm going to go down there, I'm going to cut a branch off, and we're going to see what we come up with. Hopefully one of these will work. Well, we're back inside, and it's actually the next morning. I just didn't get around to working on this yesterday afternoon, but it's time to work on the handle. I went out in the yard where we have kind of a weedy apple tree that's not close to the house and needed to be pruned anyways, and I managed to cut an apple branch and sort of start working on that to get it prepared for the handle. And I think I have way more than enough wood here. So the first thing I want to do is cut this to the appropriate length. This is much longer than it needs to be. And we will trim that, and then I'll work on the shaving horse and get this shape pretty much where I want it, and then fit it to the tangs. Now this is green wood, so it's going to work really easy, but it's still going to shrink, it's going to dry, it's going to move a little bit. So I'm not going to permanently attach it to the pizza cutter at this point. I'll be able to use it the way it is, but it won't be firmly attached, so after a month or so I'll do something to permanently attach it, and we'll talk about that later in the video. I think I'm going to cut it right at this big knot here, so I get rid of the knot, and that should leave us a nice piece to work with. Mostly I'm going for a nice smooth finish while still keeping the character of the natural wood. I want this to be kind of a rustic project, so I'm not trying to create a perfect piece of lumber out of this. Green wood sure is a pleasure to work with a draw knife. Wish I had a chance to do more of this kind of woodworking. Got a knot right there, so it's going to take a little extra work, I think. This is still way too big. I just want to sneak up on something that seems comfortable. Well, that handle is very close to what I want. I think any more adjustment will be after the handle is completely dried and cured. I think I'm going to put it on this way. I think I like that better than I like this. Hard to say though. The next thing I want to do is I want to clean up the ends a little bit, put a little bit of a bevel on those, and I'm just going to do that with a simple knife. A knife is also a good way to clean up any little burrs or splinters from weird grain direction. A Sloyd knife like this is really a useful thing if you're doing any kind of green woodworking. They come in real handy, just a good general purpose knife. But I do recommend you find some better instruction than I can give on how do you do some of this safely. This looks really dangerous because you're coming at your thumb, but the way your hand is, you actually miss your thumb because you're just using this much pull and you're never actually come close to your thumb. But there are lots of different knife techniques. And if you look up some of the spoon carvers like Jared Dahl or Peter Follansbee, Beulah or Yoga Svenquist, they all have videos out there that'll show you how to do this much better than I can show you. And probably all DVDs. I don't know that they do much YouTube. So I'm going to clean the handle up just a little bit with a card scraper. And this is going to need a lot more of this kind of stuff. It'll definitely need sanding. There's a few spots with really odd grain around the knots and other places that there's just no good way to clean up other than with some sandpaper. But that'll all wait till after it's dried completely. So now what I want to do is figure out where this will go end to end. I'm going to put a couple of marks on there so I know where to drill. And I'm going to start with a bit that's about the size of the top end of the smaller of the two tangs. And I'm going to put a little piece of tape on here because I don't want to drill all the way through. That's my little marker there. Just using a brad point bit. I suppose if you're a chair maker and have a spoon bit this size, that wouldn't be bad either, but I don't. Now that bit is wide enough for both of these tangs. I only need to enlarge it now lengthwise because the tangs on the knife taper a little bit. So I'm going to do that with a chisel. And of course, if you've got better ways of doing this, go right ahead. You could burn this in dry wood. That's probably what I would do. But this is no problem for a nice sharp chisel. Now after this dries completely, I think I'm going to epoxy these in. I thought about cross pins, but I don't think I left enough material here to drill a pinhole any bigger than about a 1/16 of an inch. And that just doesn't seem like enough to do much for me. I'd want at least an 1/8. So I think just a little epoxy in here. It's going to be a very low stress thing. The handle is always used pushing down, which isn't going to make it want to fall off. And as a result, I just don't think there's much chance of it falling off with just a little bit of glue in there. Of course, now I got that all packed full of chips, so I need to get all those out. It's getting close. Thing's got a nice ring to it. Just going to use the drill to pull some of the packed in chips out and break them up so they come out a little bit easier. Not really going any deeper. I think that's going to fit. And no, the blade isn't sharpened yet, so I can get away with this. Once it's sharpened, I don't think I'd do it though. That is it. I think we can go try that out on that pizza once I give this a quick sharpen. And I'm going to go back up to the shop for that. So let's head back up to the shop. I'm going to sharpen this real quick on the belt grinder, and it should be ready to cut that pizza, and we can finally eat. I'm going to start sharpening this on a 220 belt. It's close enough to sharp that shouldn't take too long. And I'm using the rotary platen from Beaumont Metal Works. That'll give it kind of a rounded edge that should hold up well to whatever use it's put to. I just want to clean it up with a ultra-fine diamond stone here. Then I'll just clean up any burr that's left with a strop. And we should be sharp enough now to go cut a pizza. So let's go see if this thing actually works. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button. Feel free to stick around, watch a few of the other videos, share the videos with your friends, but then make time in your day to get out to your shop. Make something, but stay safe. Wear your safety glasses. We'll see you for the next one. Well, that worked much better. Now we can finally eat our pizza. Oh, that's still hot.